If you're passionate about growing your own food, learning the art of seed saving can be a game changer. Ever wondered how some gardeners manage to cultivate the same fantastic plants every year without needing to purchase seeds? It's simpler than it seems, and today we're diving into the secrets of seed saving. I'll confess I've tried saving seeds in the past. Once I even carefully kept seeds from my best tomato. Sure, I was onto something big. But a year later, I found those seeds tucked away, only after I'd already bought new ones. If I'd just known a bit more, I could have saved myself some money and hassle. For the Amish, though, seed saving isn't just a task, it's a lifestyle. They've mastered the process of selecting, drying, and storing seeds, passing down this valuable knowledge through generations. Meanwhile, most of us buy new seeds each spring, often ending up with packets that don't even sprout because they've sat too long on store shelves. But seed saving isn't as complicated as it might sound. Take tomatoes, for example. The Amish method is refreshingly simple. They start with a perfectly ripe tomato from their healthiest plant, scoop out the seeds, and let them sit in water for a few days. While this step might sound odd, it's actually crucial. This short fermentation process breaks down the gel-like coating on the seeds, which helps ensure they sprout when you want them to, not prematurely. Fun fact, studies show that fermented seeds generally have higher germination rates, meaning they're more likely to sprout when you plant them. The Amish have known this instinctively for generations. By saving seeds from only the strongest plants, they set themselves up for success year after year. It's a form of natural selection, where they control the traits passed down in their crops. And it's not just about tomatoes. This same principle applies to all kinds of plants, from beans to squash to cucumbers. The technique might differ slightly depending on the plant, but the approach is consistent. Choose the best. Dry them thoroughly, and store them in a way that preserves them for future seasons. If you're ready to get started, the first step is learning which seeds are worth saving. The Amish are experts at this, only collecting seeds from their most robust plants. When you see a huge tomato or an oversized cucumber in an Amish garden, it's not just for show. It's often the parent of next season's crop. They know that only the best plants will yield the best seeds, which in turn produce the best plants. When selecting seeds from tomatoes, aim for ones that are fully ripened. You want the fruit that's soft, vibrantly colored, and at peak maturity. If that tomato on your counter is a little wrinkled and overripe, it's actually perfect for seed saving. Ripe fruits contain mature seeds, which are crucial for successful germination in the next season. Cucumbers are even more interesting. Ever noticed how an overripe cucumber starts to turn yellow? That's when it's ready for seed saving. At this stage, the seeds have fully developed, and they're ideal for drying and storing. If your cucumber looks like something out of a medieval arsenal rather than a salad ingredient, you've found seed-saving gold. The guiding principle here is simple. Only save seeds from plants that exhibit strong, desirable qualities. This is how the Amish maintain the consistency of their crops, year after year. Saving seeds from weaker or disease-prone plants might yield seeds, but they're unlikely to grow into productive plants. Now, let's talk about the wet seed saving method, which is perfect for fleshy, seed-filled produce like tomatoes and cucumbers. Imagine holding a fully ripe tomato. It's juicy, maybe even a bit squishy. But instead of making sauce, this time we're aiming to save seeds. Start by scooping out the seeds along with the surrounding gel into a bowl or jar. This isn't a simple rinse and dry situation. For strong, healthy plants, these seeds need a quick fermentation. In tomatoes, this process breaks down the sticky gel that naturally coats each seed, helping you separate out the healthiest seeds to save for next season. After scooping out the seeds along with the gel into a container, loosely cover it and let it sit for around 3 to 4 days. During this time, the seeds will start to ferment, which, yes, can get a bit smelly, especially if it's warm outside. So, if you're not thrilled about unusual odors in your kitchen, consider moving the container to the garage or a back porch. This fermentation stage is essential because it breaks down the protective coating around the seeds, allowing the strong, viable seeds to sink to the bottom. A bit of mold might even form on the surface, which is totally normal, although admittedly it can look pretty gross. Once a few days have passed, pour off any liquid and other residue, then rinse the seeds thoroughly in a strainer. Spread them out on a paper towel or coffee filter to dry. The only product we're ever going to recommend on this channel is a book by Claude Davis, a seasoned prepper, about 126 superfoods and preservation techniques from crisis eras like the Great Depression and wartime, tips that are hard to find elsewhere. We chose to share his book because we're likely one of the last generations that can pass this knowledge about nutrient-dense foods and preservation methods to our children and grandchildren. It would be a shame to let this valuable knowledge disappear. You can also find a book on herbal remedies by Nicole Apelian in their store. If you're watching this on TV, you can look up our channel, Frugal Town, on your phone or tablet, and find these books through the link in our channel description or any video description. Now, let's talk cucumbers. While they seem simple, they require just as much attention for seed saving. Let your cucumber mature well past its peak until it's yellowed and oversized. Once it's looking like it's overdue for a retirement discount, cut it open and scoop out the seeds with the surrounding gel. Just like with tomatoes, place them in a jar with some water and allow it to ferment. After a few days, rinse the seeds and spread them out on a paper towel to dry. A key trick is making sure they're completely dry before storing. Trust me, I learned the hard way that almost dry isn't good enough. Those seeds can mold faster than you can say, next year's cucumbers. Ensure they're entirely moisture-free by drying them in a well-ventilated spot for a few days. When the seeds are completely dry, it's time to store them. Place them in a labeled paper envelope or a small glass jar with the type and date, so you'll remember what's what when planting season returns. Store them somewhere cool and dark, like a pantry or closet, to prevent moisture and heat from spoiling your work. For an easier seed-saving method that skips the sticky mess, try the dry method, which works well for plants with sturdy seeds like beans, peas, and corn. These low-maintenance crops can be left to dry naturally on the plant, almost like they're waiting for you to come by and collect them. Take beans, for example. Once the plants are mature, the pods dry out on the vine, becoming brittle and rattling with the seeds inside. A little nature-made miraca. If you're anything like me, you might feel tempted to give it a shake. Once you're done, gather those dried pods. Inside, the beans are fully developed and just need to be shelled. If necessary, let them dry a bit more, then store them in a cool, dry spot where they can last for years without sprouting in storage. Peas follow a similar process, drying on the plant until the pods feel hard and crisp. When they reach this point, they're easy to shell and, like beans, need only a cool, dry place to keep them fresh for future seasons. There's something incredibly rewarding about saving seeds from these resilient plants. They don't demand any extra work, just patience as they dry naturally. Corn requires a little more hands-on work. Let the ears dry on the stalk until the kernels feel hard. If you happen to have an old-fashioned corn sheller, now's the time to use it. Otherwise, twisting the kernels off by hand will do the job, though it might give you a bit of a workout. Once shelled, these seeds are ready to store and can last a long time, ready to sprout into a new crop of corn. What I love about this dry seed method is how effortless it feels, almost like you're in sync with nature. Unlike the wet method, there's no fermentation or strange smells, just the earthy scent of dried beans. Plus, it's about as close to set it and forget it as gardening gets. Store these seeds somewhere cool and dry and they'll be ready whenever you are, potentially lasting for years with enough to share. Once you've saved seeds from your favorite tomatoes, beans, or corn, the next challenge is storing them properly so they'll sprout when the time comes. Instead of stashing seeds in a random drawer and hoping for the best, the Amish take a much more intentional approach. For them, seed storage is about preserving a future harvest, not just organization. The basics of proper storage are straightforward. Keep your seeds in a cool, dry place, ideally between 32 and 41 degrees Fahrenheit. The cooler and more stable the temperature, the better. Root cellars work wonders, but a basement or even a dry closet will do. Just resist the urge to store them near your spice jars, unless you want surprise cucumber seeds in your stew. Choosing the right container matters too. Glass jars with tight lids are ideal because they're durable and keep moisture out, which helps extend the seed's viability. One of the biggest threats to seed preservation is moisture. Paper packets work well for seed storage, but they should be tucked away in a dry, sealed container. You might even want to add a silica gel packet, those little moisture-absorbing packets that come with new shoes, to keep any stray dampness at bay. It's a small but worthwhile extra layer of protection, giving you a modern twist on an old tradition. If you're considering storing seeds in the fridge or freezer, it's not a bad idea, since freezing can extend seed life. but it does come with a commitment. Once you freeze seeds, they need to stay frozen. Thawing and refreezing can damage them, making them less likely to sprout. So if you go this route, prepare for the long haul in deep freeze storage. And don't forget to label everything. Grab a marker and clearly label jars or envelopes with the seed type and the year you saved it. Even if you're sure you'll remember, trust me, future you will thank you. Once, I saved a mysterious batch of seeds, thinking I'd remember they were sunflowers. Turns out they were actually corn, which led to quite the surprise when I ended up with corn sprouting in the middle of my flower bed. Having a stash of well-preserved seeds is a comforting feeling. It's like having a pantry full of food ready for winter, except in this case, you're preparing for a season of new growth. With seeds saved and stored properly, you're not just ensuring future harvests. You're cultivating a sense of self-reliance, something the Amish know well. You may even find yourself feeling more prepared for anything nature might throw your way. But for the Amish, seed saving isn't just about safeguarding future crops. It's also about sharing. Seed sharing and swapping within their community strengthens their resilience. By exchanging seeds with family and friends, they're creating a support network. If one crop fails, a neighbor will likely have seeds to help them replant. Think of it as seed insurance, except instead of a yearly renewal, it's as simple as swapping seeds with neighbors. They might trade their best squash seeds for a neighbor's prized tomato seeds, building a variety of crops perfectly suited to their local climate and soil. While we may treat streaming passwords as if they're precious, the Amish freely share seeds, investing in their community's future. And the best part? You don't have to live in a rural area to experience seed swapping. Many local gardening clubs, online groups, and even libraries host seed exchanges, where you can trade seeds you've saved for new varieties. It's a fantastic way to access seeds you won't find in stores while meeting other gardeners who can share their wisdom. Joining a gardening community where everyone is just as enthusiastic about plants can be a rewarding experience. Swapping seeds isn't just a backup plan or a way to diversify your garden, it's a way to keep heirloom varieties alive. These seeds, often passed down through generations, carry unique flavors and resilience to local pests. Without exchanges, these heirlooms might fade, replaced by more generic varieties. Imagine a world without the deep flavor of a purple tomato or the satisfying crunch of a thick-walled cucumber. All because these seeds weren't shared enough. That's the magic of seed swapping, keeping plants' stories and flavors alive. So this year, instead of just saving seeds to store away, consider saving an extra batch for swapping. Label these extras, set them aside, and share them with fellow gardeners. In return, you won't just be getting seeds. You'll be connecting with other growers and perhaps gaining a little bit of their gardening expertise. Soon, your garden may be full of stories from seeds that have been passed around by friends and neighbors. When it comes to preserving seed purity, the Amish really shine. Cross-pollination, where two different varieties of the same plant mix, is always a risk when saving seeds. While hybrid results can sometimes be interesting, they're also unpredictable. Without careful planning, you may end up with an unintentional hybrid that's more a curious experiment than the heirloom you intended. Trust me, I once tried growing two types of squash too close together, and the result was a bizarre hybrid that was not quite fit for the dinner table. To prevent surprises, the Amish keep enough distance between plants like cucumbers and squashes. They might plant varieties hundreds of feet apart. Yes, it sounds extreme, but it's worth it to keep each variety's traits intact. Imagine planting tomatoes for their perfect juicy flavor, only to find they taste nothing like a tomato should. For self-pollinating plants like tomatoes and beans, the Amish can be a bit more relaxed, since these plants mostly pollinate themselves. However, they may still add natural barriers, like rows of tall corn, for extra insurance. Row covers are another great option. They act like privacy screens for your plants, containing the pollen within and reducing the risk of cross-pollination. While plant social distancing may sound funny, it's a great strategy for preserving seed quality and ensuring each variety stays true to its type. If you're growing several varieties of the same plant and want to save their seeds, think of it like creating a buffer zone between each type. For instance, one variety of cucumber could be planted here and another a few hundred feet away. It might seem excessive, but for the Amish, this technique is a long-standing tradition to keep their seedlines pure across generations. Cross-pollination can be a real issue for those wanting to preserve specific plant traits, but it's also a reminder of the thoughtfulness and planning required in growing your own food. Over time, and maybe a few mistakes, you'll find yourself truly valuing the heritage and history these seeds carry. When you finally enjoy a perfectly homegrown tomato with the flavor you remember, it will feel completely worth the effort. Once you've put in the work to save seeds, it's natural to want to ensure they're still viable before planting them. The Amish have perfected a few quick methods to avoid wasting space in the garden on seeds that won't sprout. It's like testing a flashlight's batteries before you pack it for camping. No one wants to be caught in the dark with dead batteries. One simple test is the float test, which is just what it sounds like. Fill a glass of water, drop a few seeds in, and see what sinks. Viable seeds will sink, while those that float are likely past their prime. Floating seeds usually won't grow, so you might repurpose them for a craft project if you're sentimental. However, be mindful that this test doesn't work for every type of seed, as some seeds naturally float no matter how viable they are. When in doubt, try planting a few seeds in a small pot indoors and see if they sprout. It requires a little patience, but it's worth it if you're planning to devote a whole row to that crop. Another handy technique is the mini germination test. All you need is a damp paper towel, a plastic bag, and a sunny windowsill. Place about 10 seeds on the paper towel, fold it up, and put it in a loosely sealed bag for about a week. During that time, some seeds should start sprouting, giving you a reliable sense of their viability. Nothing beats seeing tiny sprouts firsthand. It's like nature's own green light telling you the seeds are good to go. Seed saving goes beyond simply ensuring a crop for the next year. It's about preserving a legacy like a family recipe or a cherished heirloom. The Amish know this well, passing down heirloom seeds and the techniques that safeguard them so that each generation can enjoy the same bountiful harvests. Just as some families pass down a beloved pasta sauce recipe, the Amish pass down seeds that have nourished their families for decades, even centuries. Imagine planting beans from seeds that have been saved for over 100 years. It's like inheriting a piece of history, only you get to plant it and watch it grow. Seed saving isn't just a quaint hobby, it's a commitment to preserving diversity, flavor, and resilience. Modern agriculture often favors crops that grow fast and travel well, but these traits sometimes come at the cost of taste and hardiness. The Amish, along with many home gardeners, recognize that some of the most flavorful and unique crops are preserved through generations of seed saving, shielded from the cross-pollination and genetic modifications that come with large-scale farming. Keeping these seeds pure protects not only family traditions, but also contributes to a more varied food supply. For me, learning these Amish techniques has been a bit of an eye-opener. I realized that gardening isn't just about what I can grow this season, but about what I can grow for future generations. Saving seeds plants the potential for sharing these crops with my children and grandchildren. Instead of passing down gadgets or old trophies, seed savers hand off living traditions, plants that have sustained families for years. It's a big responsibility, but also deeply grounding and simple in its beauty. Given the right care, a seed will keep growing season after season. Hopefully, you're feeling inspired to try your hand at seed saving. It's more than a way to grow your own food. It's a way to connect with nature, save money, and contribute to something larger than yourself. By saving seeds, you're preserving traditions, building resilience, and perhaps even creating a legacy that future generations can continue.